Ever wondered how AI came to life?
Here is the story of Jensen Huang, the boy who created Nvidia.
The giant that powers AI all over the world.
Some companies start in a garage. This one started at a Denny's. San Jose, 1993. A booth in the back, shrouded in cigarette smoke.
Look closer at the window next to them.
A bullet hole, a reminder that violence was always just outside the glass. But for Jensen Huang, danger was a feeling he learned to love. To understand the man, you have to leave Silicon Valley.
Go back 20 years to the deep woods of rural Kentucky. His parents thought they were sending him to a prep school.
They were wrong. It was the Oneida Baptist Institute.
Not a prep school, a reform school for endangered youth.
Jensen was 9 years old, an immigrant, small, terrified. His roommate wasn't a scholar. He was 17, and he was recovering from a stabbing wound. This was the crucible, sink or swim.
Jensen didn't hide. He made a deal.
He taught his roommate to read. The roommate kept him safe.
But safety came with a cost. Hard labor.
His daily reality wasn't coding. It was scrubbing toilets. 3 stories of bathrooms every single day.
Most kids would break. Jensen found a rhythm.
He decided he would be the best toilet cleaner in Kentucky.
This sounds trivial. It isn't.
It was the birth of a philosophy. Endure the pain. Fast forward to 1993. The pain is different now. Jensen is an engineer at LSI Logic. Successful, bored. The PC revolution is happening, but something is missing. Computers were glorified typewriters. They couldn't see.
They couldn't dream. They couldn't render 3D.
Jensen calls 2 friends, Chris Malakovsky, Curtis Preem.
They were the smartest guys in the room at Sun Microsystems.
But they wanted out. They wanted to build a graphics chip.
The problem? It was impossible. The technology didn't exist. The market didn't exist. Experts said the PC would never handle 3D.
Jensen didn't care. He remembered the reform school.
If you can scrub toilets for years, you can build the impossible. Back to the diner. The rain is harder now. They order endless cups of coffee. They scream over the noise.
Other customers complain. The police are there.
Not for them, for the shootings in the parking lot. It was a war zone outside. It was a war room inside.
They realized video games were the key.
Games drive hardware. It was their Trojan horse. But they had no money, no office. Just $40,000 in the bank. And a name was a problem.
They labeled all their files NV.
Next version, NV. They looked for words with NV. Nvidia, Latin for envy. Nvidia, to be green with envy. April 1993. They incorporate. They leave the diner, step past the bullet hole. They had no idea what was coming. Bankruptcy within 2 years. Betrayal by the industry standards. But that night, they just felt ready. Ready to endure. Because the boy from Kentucky knew one thing. If you can survive the toilet, you can conquer the world. 1995. The product is finished. The NV1.
It was supposed to change the world.
Instead, it was a paperweight. They made a fatal mathematical error.
Nvidia bet on quadrilaterals, curved shapes.
But Microsoft released DirectX, and they chose triangles.
Triangles were easier, cheaper. The industry followed.
Nvidia was speaking a language nobody understood. Sales hit 0. The cash burned. Jensen had to do the hardest thing in business. He laid off half the company. Friends. Engineers. The silence in the office was louder than the yelling. They had 30 days of payroll left. Their only lifeline was a contract with Sega. Sega wanted the NV2 chip for the Dreamcast. But Jensen knew the NV2 was built on wrong math. If they built it, it would fail.
If they quit, they starved. He flew to Japan to see Shoichiro Irimajiri,
The CEO of Sega, a legend, a titan.
Jensen walked in with nothing but bad news. He said, "Sir, we cannot build this chip. If we build it, Sega loses. You must hire someone else."
Silence. The room was freezing.
Then Jensen asked for the impossible.
But I need you to pay us anyway.
If you don't, we go bankrupt next week.
It was begging, but it was honest begging.
Irimajiri looked at the young engineer.
He saw the toilet cleaner from Kentucky.
He signed the check, $5 million. $5 million. That bought them 6 months of life.
They abandoned the NV2. They started over.
Project name, Riva 128.
The goal, be faster than everyone. Do it in 6 months.
The enemy was 3DFX, the Voodoo card. Everyone had Voodoo. Nobody had Nvidia.
The team worked 20-hour days, sleeping under desks.
Jensen was in the trenches, coding, testing.
3 months left, the emulator broke.
They were designing a chip blindly.
If the silicone came back wrong, they were dead.
No money for a respin, one shot.
The final days were a blur of caffeine and panic. April 1997. The first chip arrives from the fab. Jensen holds the Riva 128. It's smaller than a Crocker.
They slot it into the motherboard.
Power on. The fans spin.
A black screen. 1 second. 2 seconds.
Then pixels.
It worked, and it was fast. 400% faster than the competition.
They launched it. The world noticed.
1 million units sold in 4 months.
The cash flow returned. The lights stayed on.
Sega made their money back, and then some.
Jensen had cheated death.
But the near-death experience changed him.
He adopted a motto. We are 30 days from going out of business.
He would never feel safe again.
Good, because the real war was just beginning.
2006. Nvidia was the king of video games. They had won. They could have coasted forever.
Instead, Jensen grabbed the steering wheel and yanked it. He saw something nobody else saw, a hidden pattern.
Graphics chips process pixels in parallel, millions at once.
CPUs process tasks one by one, like a genius math professor.
GPUs are different. They are 1,000 dumb laborers.
Individually, slow. Together, unstoppable. Jensen had a vision. Use the GPU for everything.
He called it CUDA, Compute Unified Device Architecture. He made a decree, put CUDA in every single chip, even the cheap ones, even if the customer didn't want it.
This was expensive. It ate their profit margins alive.
Wall Street was confused. Why are you building a supercomputer for gamers?
Gamers were angry. Why is my card so expensive? Jensen didn't care. He was building a platform. He was waiting for the scientists to arrive.
But first, the world had to end.
2008, the financial crisis.
The market collapsed. Nvidia stock fell off a cliff.
From $37 down to $6.
The company lost 80% of its value. Investors were screaming, "Kill CUDA, stop spending."
It was $1 billion annual expense for zero revenue.
Jensen stood in the boardroom. He wore the leather jacket.
He said, "This is the future. We stay the course."
For 5 years, they suffered.
Stock stayed flat. Critics laughed.
But quietly, in university basements, something was happening.
PhD students were buying the cards.
Not for gaming, for physics, for biology.
They realized Jensen's dumb laborers could learn. 2012, the ImageNet competition.
Computers were terrible at seeing. They confused cats and dogs. Enter Alex Krajewski, Aliyah Sutskever, Jeffrey Hinton.
They didn't have a supercomputer.
They had $1,000. They bought 2 GTX 580s.
They wrote code to run on CUDA.
They fed the cards millions of images. The GPUs crunched the math day and night.
6 days later, the results came in. They didn't just win, they destroyed the competition. It was the big bang of AI.
Deep learning was born on Nvidia hardware.
Suddenly, everyone understood.
Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they all called.
They didn't want graphics, they wanted the math. Jensen's billion-dollar waste was now a gold mine.
The stock price woke up.
He had built the roads before the cars were invented. If he had listened to Wall Street, AI would not exist. This was the pivot point of history. Nvidia was no longer a gaming company. They were a computing company.
But Jensen wasn't celebrating.
He knew this was just the training round. The real demand was coming. Not from scientists, from everyone. And he needed a bigger chip.
The AI winter was over. The gold rush had begun.
2017. Walk into any electronics store in America.
Walk to the graphics card aisle. Look at the shelf.
Empty. Ghost town. Everywhere.
Gamers were furious. They blamed Nvidia.
But it wasn't gamers buying the cards. It was the miners, the crypto gold rush.
Ethereum had arrived, and it ran on GPUs.
They didn't buy one card, they bought thousands.
They ran them 24/7 until they melted.
Nvidia stock skyrocketed. Revenue doubled.
It was free money, a drug. Jensen was nervous. He hates bubbles. He knew crypto was fickle. It could vanish overnight. He tried to stop them. He released LHR cards. Light hash rate, designed to be bad at mining. Miners hacked it in weeks. They didn't care.
While the world obsessed over coins, Jensen looked elsewhere.
He was looking at a nonprofit in San Francisco.
OpenAI, a small team with a massive idea. They didn't want to mine coins. They wanted to build a brain.
But the gaming cards were too small, too slow.
Jensen made a decision. Build a monster. The DGX-1, the world's first AI supercomputer in a box.
Inside, 8 Tesla P100 GPUs.
Connected by NVLink, a digital highway.
It cost $129,000.
August 2016, Jensen hand delivers the first unit.
He brings a marker, he signs the chassis. To Elon and the OpenAI team, to the future.
This was the seed. The hardware met the software.
2017, Google publishes a paper. Attention is all you need.
They invented the transformer, the T in GPT.
Transformers could read, they could write,
But they were hungry. They needed data.
And they needed compute, massive compute.
Nvidia became the only shovel seller in town.
2018, the crypto bubble burst.
Mining farms shut down. eBay flooded with used cards.
Nvidia stock crashed again, down 50%.
Wall Street said, see, it was just a fad.
Jensen didn't blink. He was buying.
He bought Mellanox for $7 billion.
Networking, the nervous system for the brain.
He wasn't building chips anymore. He was building data centers.
2020, the pandemic. The world went digital.
Gaming exploded, but AI was quietly training.
GPT-2, GPT-3, the models grew 100x bigger.
They needed thousands of GPUs, not 8. Jensen announced the A100, the Ampere.
It wasn't a graphics card. It had no video output.
It couldn't run Doom. It could run the world. Microsoft bought them all. Google bought them all.
The AI winter was officially over. Jensen had successfully pivoted the Titanic.
Crypto was dead to him. The metaverse was a distraction. He was all in on generative AI. But the world hadn't seen it yet.
They thought Nvidia was just a stock bubble.
Until a cold day in November 2022, when a chatbot would change everything.
November 30,
2022, the day everything changed.
OpenAI released ChatGPT. It was a quiet launch. 5 days later, 1 million users.
2 months later, 100 million.
The tech giants panicked. It was a code red.
They needed to build their own AI immediately. But to build AI, you need the engine.
And there was only one engine manufacturer.
Enter the H100, the Hopper.
80 billion transistors, a masterpiece of physics.
It costs $40,000 per chip.
And you don't need one. You need 20,000.
It became the new oil, the new gold.
CEOs were begging Jensen for allocation. Armored trucks transported them, like diamonds.
Venture capitalists bought them just to get deal flow. The demand was infinite. The supply was finite.
Wall Street didn't believe it.
Then came May 24th, 2023. The earnings call heard round the world. Analysts expected $7 billion in revenue. Nvidia said no, $11 billion.
A $4 billion beat. Unheard of. The stock jumped 25% overnight.
They added $200 billion in market cap.
In one single day, short sellers were liquidated, annihilated. Nvidia joined the $1 trillion club. Then 2 trillion, then 3.
Jensen was now worth $100 billion.
Most men would buy an island or a yacht. Jensen went back to the lab.
He doesn't wear a watch. He says now is the only time that matters.
He runs the company like a startup.
Flat hierarchy, no offices, brutal honesty.
He told Stanford students his secret to success.
I wish upon you ample doses of pain and suffering. Because greatness comes from character.
And character comes from suffering.
He is still that boy, scrubbing the floor.
He calls it the piranha-yopia of the $0 billion company.
Even at the top, he thinks they will fail tomorrow.
And that is why they win.
They don't have competitors, they have victims.
Jensen built the brain of the planet.
Every AI, every discovery, runs on his silicon.
From the bullet hole in Denny's to the most valuable company on Earth. The blueprint wasn't genius. It was resilience.
It was the ability to eat pain.
And the paranoia to never stop running. Jensen Huang.
The man who gave the machine a soul.
And he's just getting started.
Because for him,
it's always 30 days from bankruptcy.
This is the Scale Blueprint.
Like and subscribe to not miss the next blueprint.